Yeah, I love how we have Ali in here talking about men's health and performance optimization and doing all this stuff. And right off the bat, it's like, hey, AD, you need some optimization because we have Ali here, you know?
How's your boner today?
I just knew we were going to have so much fun on this episode, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God. We were at Bedros' event and you got up in stage and brought your party favor with you.
I did.
It was a dildo.
It was a dildo.
It was.
And it was so great because like that was the first time that I had seen you like perform, like get up and talk and speak and everything. And you pulled that out. And at first I was like, okay, like whatever. Let's just see where this goes. And then like towards, you know, as you're going through the speech, I'm like, this is actually perfect. I totally get it. You know, because one of the main things I want to talk with you, Miss Ali Gilbert, is, you know, how you have become such a powerhouse in men's performance and men's health and optimization. It takes a very special kind of woman to do what you do. And I think the way you do it is the way that works, I think, is it like drops the barriers. It kind of like makes guys, I think, more like, okay, I don't have to worry about talking about my dick with you. Like, I don't have to worry about my hormone issues or anything like that because you're upfront that, hey, this is what we're dealing with. This is the kind of stuff we're fixing for you. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the Earn It All podcast, Ali Gilbert.
Thank you.
Yeah. Super excited to have you here. This is your third event coming up called Silverback Summit on Friday.
Yes.
I can't wait to see what you do because I saw what you did at Pedro's event and I'm sure this one's going to be a lot of fun too.
Yeah, that was fun. So that was September. So in October, I spoke in Dubai and you're not allowed to bring sex toys to Dubai. So I was like, what am I going to do for an opener? I was like really puzzled because the audience is mainly UK and UK guys don't really laugh either. So I was like, what am I going to, and I honestly don't even remember what I said, but I was laughing because I was like, well, can't use that joke. I'll get deported.
Right.
Or stoned to death or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just dive right into it. You are essentially a leader in men's health and performance optimization, including hormones and erectile dysfunction issues, like anything that is going on in the body that is showing on the outside of the body, like is kind of what you specialize in. And I would even just add to it, like, it's also like the mind, it's the mental toughness and everything. And it takes a very special woman to do that. So how did you get into this? Because you've obviously found your lane, but when did you kind of like wake up and be like, you know what? I don't need to work with the ladies. I want to work with the dudes. How did that come about?
It was very clear. So I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is like an uber wealthy town. A lot of old money, but also a lot of new money. And I started training right out of college. Like my degree was in exercise science. And I was like, I want to train athletes because everybody in exercise science wants to because they're fun. And that's what, we learn. And I ended up starting at a commercial gym in Greenwich. And I worked with everybody, men, women, but I trained a lot of the housewives. And I just could not relate to them because I'm a tomboy who plays sports and like I didn't know what Birkin was or like designer clothes. I'm like, this is not my jam. And they just wanted to, see? Yeah. And they just wanted to chat the whole time. And I'm like, no, we're here to work. So the guys I worked with happened to play a lot of golf because golf is a finance sport. And I had a lot of the Wall Street guys and everything. And I was like, this is a sport and these guys can afford to train and they take it very seriously and they're very type A and they're fun to work with. I'm going to learn about golf. I didn't know anything about golf. And I dove headfirst into the Titleist Performance Institute golf fitness certification. And I was like, this is where I'm going. And I became known as the golf fitness professional in Greenwich. I was the go-to person and it brought me all men as a clientele. And I was very happy with that because that gave me my sport kind of specialization. And quickly the conversation would always pivot from how do I hit the ball farther to nutrition questions and energy questions and, hormones naturally because they had no energy, they had no drive, they couldn't last past like the 12th hole, stuff like that. And I was like, this is really weird. Nobody's talking about this with these guys. And one of my business coaches at the time was like, just post about men's health stuff, dive into that, like go with that. That's a niche. And I was like, I guess so. And so that's what I did. And I learned everything about men's physiology, men's health. I went to medical conferences, learned as much as I could, spoke at a medical conference, and basically just formed relationships with doctors to learn what they do for interpreting blood work and testosterone replacement and all that stuff. And so fast forward, that was like 2008, 2009. And so fast forward now, and here we are. And I realized along the way that there were no events for men's health. There's women's health certifications. There's women's health conferences. There's really nothing for the dudes. And I applied to more medical organizations to talk about what I talk about, which is optimizing testosterone, but also the nutrition and the fitness aspect. And they're all, yeah, we have that topic. And I'm like, no, you don't. And I got denied many times. And I was like, okay, this is some bullshit. So I'm going to create my own event, which I did 3 years ago. And that's where Silverback Summit was born, because I was like, we have to bring the guys together in a place where you bring the medical and the fitness people and make them talk so they're on the same page, but also mental health and business and just well-being in general, and have it all in the same room and normalize all this discussion so guys feel comfortable and everyone's on the same page. Because I would always hear guys say, well, my doctor said this, and then my coach is saying this, and then I do this program online, and they're piecemealing their entire health together. And I was like, no, we have to stop that. So we're going to bring it all together. And that's what we did with Silverback. And that's kind of where I am now, where I have my coaching business, and then I have the Silverback Summit as like my main babies. So
I think it's cool. And one thing I really like about you specifically doing this is, you know, basically every guy probably over, I mean, it might be 25, but over 30 now has hormone issues. And you know, obviously we see it all the time, but I think a lot of guys are not taking the first step to learn anything about it, because maybe they're just so low on T or whatever that they just don't feel like they want to go to the big burly guy or the alpha guy or the beard. And some guys are actually, I think, a little turned off by that.
Yeah.
Because some guys take it so far with the alpha that it's kind of like, well, I don't know if I want that.
Yeah.
But you have such a unique angle to bring it to guys. It's like, well, like, hey, me as a woman, I know that you men are suffering. I know you can do better. You can perform better in all different ways. So I think it's really cool, like the way that you've been able to do this and be successful with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, like it's really interesting to me. And I'm looking at my notes from the last time I heard you speak. One of them is Allie is funny as fuck. So that's true.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I watch a lot of stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
Because I've gone to speaking school, and when you go to speaking school, you kind of learn how you want your delivery to be. And it's either dramatic, it's statistic based, or it's humor. And for me, it's humor because it's just natural. Like with this type of content.
Totally works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I watch a lot of that to learn how they deliver jokes and stuff like that. So I try to be funny.
Well, it works. And one of the other things that really stood out to me is when you said that test levels are turning men into women. I would love for you to elaborate on that and expand on that.
So there's a book called Countdown by Dr. Shanna Swan. And she was actually on Joe Rogan a while ago. And she was part of a study in 2017 that showed men's sperm count declining about 60% in the past few decades, and predicting it to be zero by the year 2048. And I was like, holy shit, like that's scary.
Zero.
Yeah. Like men would be infertile by that year.
No way.
And a lot of that has to do with the exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals and guys being exposed to less androgens in the womb, and how basically a female who is pregnant with a male, her exposure to these toxic things can affect his sperm production as an adult, which is wild. And then I got like all these questions from women. They're like, well, how do I stop that? And I'm like, I have no idea. But it's pretty weird to read as a stat. So that is responsible for the feminization of men when they're born. And like you'll see it more and more in kids in their 20s and teenagers. They have more female fat storage patterns. They're, how do you say, weak, physically weak, emotionally, mentally, like than when we grew up. And something funny is the distance from the anus to the scrotum, which is scientifically called the anogenital distance, which are my initials, AG. So that's a great way to remember that. Yeah. That decreasing means more feminization has occurred.
Wow.
And then my joke for that is all the guys are going to go measure that. later in their hotel.
Yeah. What's your AG?
Yeah. What's your AG distance, you know? But she talks about that in her book, and she talks about how fertility used to be always blamed on women. And now a lot of the guys are, you know, I don't want to say the problem, but they're struggling with a lot of issues. And pretty much everybody, if you ask, someone knows somebody who's had IVF or has gone through some sort of struggle with fertility. So
my sister is, I believe, doing IVF right now.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows what side or maybe both are having an issue, but I definitely hear it more often. It's wild. And like even my wife and I, we have a 6-year-old now that we tried to have like probably like 10 to 12 years ago when we lived in California. Try, nothing. And we're like, all right, cool. Sold the big house, moved here, got a tiny house. We're not trying, and then got pregnant. So amazing. I don't know why. It was just great. You know, it actually worked out perfectly. But it was really interesting to me. And I was like, you know, we both, you know, at the time, like healthy, we think we're young and all this, like what, you know, don't have any outlying or just obvious issues to why we wouldn't be able to conceive. But there was definitely a big delay. So I don't know. I don't know if that's a normal story for people or what, but it's sad because I do see the birth rate going down. Like you said, like just men like not accepting that they're men kind of across the board. We talk a lot about men's development, and we do retreats for men and all that stuff. And it's amazing to me how many men are not comfortable being men. And I imagine it's definitely starting, especially now, like you said, as we progress at when they're born, when they're in the womb even. That's something we have to fix. That's wild.
Yeah, it's scary because like, you know, we have clients who are in their late 20s, early 30s, and they struggle like with daily tasks more so. They're just hyper aware of how they feel. Like they'll report like, you know, oh, I woke up, I'm tired. Okay. Like that's normal. We all wake up tired, you know, but they're like fixated on it and almost like it's a problem, or they're anxious about it. And they develop this anxiety over a lot of things where it's, you know, a lot of the times we want to be like, you know, well, just toughen up, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
Because they weren't either raised that way or they weren't really going through something that was adversarial where they had to actually be confronted with manning up, I guess is the term.
Yeah.
But I just find it interesting because it's like they're not comfortable with that confrontation and they don't have like the grit and the capacity to actually take stuff on like guys used to.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. He talks a lot about guys going through puberty later or missing it. And like when your testosterone spikes through puberty, like, what's the deal with that?
There's this weird, and you probably know this too. There's this interesting correlation between guys who are born to a single mom and going through puberty way late or missing it altogether. I had a single mom and I went through puberty late. And I think my body only induced itself into late stage puberty because I went in the Marine Corps. I went through puberty like 3 months after I went into boot camp. And that's when I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah.
That's
crazy. I was 18. So, and there's this big correlative like thing about that. I mean, what is it? Like almost 70% of all kids born now are born to single mother households, which is insane in itself. But the correlation between that, you know, the girls are going through puberty earlier because of the endocrine disrupting crap and all the stuff in the water and plastic and all the stuff, right?
All of it. Yeah.
All the stuff that, you know, but boys are going through puberty later, testosterone spiking way less during puberty. Like I think the last time I looked it up, it was like, you know, 100 years ago, on the trend line, it was like you might spike to 3,000-4,000 nanograms per deciliter during puberty and then level yourself out around 1,000. Yeah. And now it's like we're spiking to 600. And it's like, holy shit, like that sucks.
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a big problem. And people think like, you know, oh, well, I'm 25. I don't need to get my test levels checked. I'm like, yep.
Not anymore.
Yeah,
you should.
I have a damaged pituitary, and when I was 25, 26, my levels were 186. And I've been through this twice now, the low T thing twice. So I got on HRT when I was 26. Luckily found a good endocrinologist in Texas. This was like before you could find an HRT clinic on every fucking, you know, like a Starbucks.
Yeah, you know? Search them out.
I went to like 6 different doctors who all said I was fine and all that stuff. And that's actually what pushed me into my own health journey and ended up going to school and all that stuff. But But, come to find out mine was 186. And I was like, oh, and my endocrinologist was like, how do you it was a woman. And she was like, how'd you get here today? Like, how'd you physically get here?
Yeah.
Like with 186. And then just recently, I wanted to actually talk to you about this. I just recently went through a thing with mold. So I had toxic mold in my house, and my TRT wasn't working anymore because of it, which I've never heard of before. So the mycotoxins in the mold were blocking my androgen receptors from taking up exogenous testosterone. So my testosterone level on TRT was 128.
Tested it twice.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we thought it was fake.
Error, right?
Yeah, we thought it was lab error. The first time it was 160, and we tested again, it was 128, and I was like, nope, this is right. All right, And come to find out, it was the mold all along, which I'd never heard of. But there's so many different factors that can they can have an effect on that number, and just all your hormones in general that people would never even look at. I would have never even known.
Oh yeah, especially, and a lot of guys coming out of the military who have been exposed to explosives or have TBIs. That's what they need, and they're handed antidepressants. Like you have like the TRT stack that they give out at the clinics. You have the veteran stack, which is like Ambien, Adderall, antidepressant.
Yep.
Right.
Nobody checks hormones. Yeah, we know how helpful the VA is as well. So it's a problem. And then you have like people on social media, they constantly rip me apart because they're like, men don't need testosterone, just eat and train and sleep. I'm like, cool. If it was really that easy, I think we'd all be okay.
Right.
They think I'm just pushing testosterone. I'm like, no, I'm actually pushing guys to not internalize how they feel and to know that they're not alone. And this is okay. And you should get your levels checked. You should look into your health. You have to be an advocate for yourself, because relying on one opinion or multiple opinions or the internet's opinions is not how you navigate your personal health.
Right.
So it's tough because as you guys are men, like, that if there's a problem, you're not going to vocalize that right away. You're going to solve it, and you're going to solve it yourself, and you're going to internalize it until you implode. And when you implode, it might be not too late because we can rectify hormone issues, but it can cause other problems. There could be collateral damage
100%.
to that internalization.
Totally. And I tell guys, almost every day now, go do your blood work and show me the results if you want.
Yeah.
Not that I'm an expert at it per se, but I'm just like, if you've never had it, like, get the data, because so many guys are just going through a funk for no reason. It's just because our hormones are off. It's like, dude, like, you're only 25, you're only 32 or whatever age. They think that like testosterone is for whatever, the older guy that still wants to be an athlete or something. It's like, no, that affects your cognition. It affects how well you recover. It affects your sleep. It affects everything. Like, it's kind of like one analogy. I use the fighter jet analogy because I worked on fighter jets forever. Like, we need to know the data in that jet before we send it up to know if it's safe to go fly a stealth fighter loaded with weapons. We should probably know if it's going to work or not.
Probably might be helpful.
And the body's kind of the same way. Like, why would we go out and try to run a race if we have no idea what's going on? But it's crazy that so many guys don't even think about it. And it's not a bad thing. Like,
no,
everybody should know what's going on, especially if you're a guy. Now it's crazy to say even in your 20s, because like we always say, like, hey, don't do anything that's crazy to your body till you're 25, till your brain is developed, and if you can hold on even later, for all sorts of different things, like, it's better to wait to let your body fully develop. But now it's like, well, your body might not be developing because it doesn't have all the tools that it needs. It's like running on diesel when it should have 91.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The people that say the optimization bros that are like, just get better sleep and, eat meat and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, that's cool. However, and I like this analogy too, if we're going to stick with the analogies. It's like, yeah, I can get to New York City driving there or walking, but I'd rather take a plane. Like, I'd rather get on the plane and go there,
It's true.
And it's, you can, and I've gone down through this path with numerous clients of ours that haven't wanted to go, the pharmaceutical pathway because they are younger and stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. Here's all the giant list of stuff we're going to have to optimize then. And they're like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. It's unrealistic. It's super unrealistic for you, a young guy who's got this job and all these things, like, and they're looking at the way that they have to change their life up now. And I'm like, yeah, you have to move out of the city. you can't be around the pollutants. You can't drink that type of water.
Mm-hmm.
You can't eat those types of foods anymore. You can't be around those types of people. You can't fucking pull out the Glade plugins that are in your house, throw them away.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and if you want to go the optimization pathway, you know, in that way, it's like, you're going to have to, and then we might only be able to bring your levels up 200, you know, we might only get 400 or 500 now. And it's like, you're still not operating where you're supposed to be.
A lot of guys are resistant to it. Like they struggle with the for life thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't want to be on it for life. And I was like, well, what about the supplements that you're taking? Like a lot of those are for life. Thyroid hormone usually is for life. So they just don't want to be reliant on something. And I get that. But also I'm like, you're sacrificing your quality of life for just not wanting to be on something the rest of your life. Like it's like brushing your teeth. You know, and
that's a good point. Yeah.
It's really
continue to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just, you work that into your day or your week if you're, you know, however you're delivering the testosterone, but what it can do for you and how it can amplify the best parts of you and actually improve. Cause I hear all the complaints of what they're struggling with, but they don't want to confront the solution. And it's not, okay, we have to jump on TRT. Like, take somebody like our clients, for example, we'll get guys who are like, I want to do everything I can naturally. I'm like, cool, we'll do that. After a year, rarely does their testosterone levels jump. And if they do, the symptoms are not resolved. So we just may need that. And it's okay to go on that.
Yeah.
But the internet thinks otherwise because the internet's like, well, it's cheating.
Right.
And I'm like, what the fuck are we cheating at? Like literally, if you're not in a sport where it's illegal, what are you cheating at? And if women go on estrogen or progesterone or whatever, no one bats an eye. It's not cheating, but it's cheating. Like, what are we cheating at?
Yeah. I look at it just like any other micronutrient. You know, if I do my blood work and I'm low on B vitamin, I'm low on vitamin D, let's just say those two super simple ones, I take those.
Yeah.
But for some reason, if I'm low on testosterone, I need to ignore that because that's a bad thing. Like, why wouldn't I? That's even more important than freaking vitamin D. Why wouldn't I do that? You know? And so to me, it's like, it's not cheating. Like, if you want to optimize your body, like, why would we just ignore a major piece of it?
That whole argument's just low T anyways.
That's a big low T.
That fucking whole argument is stupid. It's like, oh, you're cheating. I'm like, oh, weird. I want to win. Like, that's just next. Like, get out of here. Like,
like, but whenever I ask, like, cheating at what, they can't answer or they don't.
Yeah, what?
You know?
Cheating at living your life? What are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's social media's.
Yeah. Where do you think all of this is going? Like, I think there's some good stuff on the horizon if RFK is able to get in and make a lot of moves with pharma, especially, and getting fluoride out of the water. All these little things can kind of add up, but there's so many things. We don't have to talk about all the different endocrine disruptors and all the shit that's out there because we are being polluted digitally and with water and air and food and pharma and supplements and all the things factor in. But in general, knowing, like you were saying earlier, like we're projected to basically become sterile moving forward. What do you think that, like, what does that look like? I mean, is everybody going to be getting on hormone replacement therapy? Do you think we can actually make enough change with lifestyles to where we can kind of start to reverse that? I'm sure it's going to take decades at this point, but like, where do you think this is like really going? Is everyone just screwed or like what do you think?
I honestly, I'm very optimistic about things and I'm hoping it gets better. The more education we can provide, the more people realize like this is a problem. And then if they experience it as a problem, then they might realize like, yeah, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
The state of America alone, if you look anywhere, it's obviously not healthy. I think you guys are interviewing Dave Lee tomorrow. So he's been staying with me the past month and we've been to Disney World. He's been all over the place. And he's like, I just cannot, he has no words. Because I said, just wait until we go to Disney because you will see shapes that you've never seen.
Oh, yeah.
Fat storage patterns.
I want to see Dave talking to somebody at Disney World.
Oh, my God. He was just like, because like he would just be like, I'm so shocked. And like a lot of the guys, like they let themselves get to this point where like, at what point do you look in the mirror and decide like enough is enough? Like you're not happy because a lot of these people have families. And the way that you live your life, your kids are going to model. Are you okay with them seeing you live your life like that? Like if America continues on that path where people are just, you know, maybe unconsciously incompetent as to how they eat food, what they're eating. Like, it's kind of like being thinking, oh, well, I'm healthy because I eat wheat bread. Like that's their logic, you know, where it doesn't really matter if it's white or wheat. It's more the consumption of the size of the portions of like, are you even exercising? Like you can't just sit on the couch and eat wheat bread, which I'm sure somebody will come at me on social media saying, yes, you can. There's a study that shows it, whatever. But obviously it has to do with education. And I think that a lot of people just believe what they're told by the people that they trust and they don't question things.
You mean like the food pyramid?
That,
oh boy,
yeah,
shit like that,
which is horrible.
Oh boy.
And like I know people who are in school for nutrition and stuff like that, and what they teach is complete polar opposite of like what the evolved studies even show and what is actually true. And there's a reason that I use bodybuilders as an example from a diet perspective. Like there's a reason why high protein works. They look the way they do. If we take the drugs out of it, there's a discipline, there's a lifestyle. There's something there that they've shown over and over and over for decades. Yeah. The basics work when it comes to training. High protein, white rice, like there's a reason those are staples in their diet. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what can we take from that world and plug into general population? Like it's two different species almost.
Oh, it totally is.
So there's such a huge disconnect. And now it's like, if you're a fit looking person, like you're an outlier. And I told Dave and my coach, Luke Lehman, was with us because Luke lives in Australia as well. I said, when we walk around Disney, if you see another fit person, they're going to give you the fit person nod. And like it happened. And Luke's like, yo, he went like this. And I was like, I told you. Because it's so rare to see.
We do it in the airport all the time.
Yes.
We look for the fit people in the airport.
Yes.
It's hard.
Last time we couldn't find anybody.
It's hard.
It is hard. But it's like, so if you think about like, okay, all the statues that they made in the, not Stone Ages, but whatever. I'm jet lagged
like
already.
Ancient Rome and stuff.
They look a certain way because that's a human body. That's how we're supposed to look because that's how we evolved. Like if you think of like, what is the gym actually? Like what is a treadmill? Like a hamster wheel. Like we're making up for the movement that we don't get during the day by going to the gym. And yes, we can actually increase the size of muscles by adding resistance. Yeah. But that was also what happened back in the day with manual labor. And like, if you ever have clients or people you work with who do manual labor, like, they've got big forearms, usually like they're pretty jacked. Even if they're overweight, they have the frame. Yeah. So I don't know where I'm going with this tangent, but basically I'm hoping for the best because the more that we can educate and like, I hope to God that my event provides some normalcy and understanding with men and men's health. But obviously it's a worldwide issue with health in general that people are just so unhealthy because I think the access to convenience has been increased. But then also spending time in Dubai where convenience is like the thing in that country. Like they deliver Sundays, they deliver ASAP, they will come to you for everything. And yet they don't have the same obesity problem that we have in the US. So it's like, are we blaming things or are we not educating enough? Like, when you were a kid, like we all had recess every day and gym class multiple days a week. And I don't think kids have that anymore. I don't have kids, so I don't know, but I think that's been cut down significantly.
Yeah.
It's, I think it's a multifaceted issue. I think it's cultural. Number one, we're very entitled here. Yes. We're extremely entitled here. And it's also, on the food and all that stuff, but that's not really an excuse because we have the education too. Yeah. So it's kind of like a weird double-edged sword where it's like, well, we have all of the information. We have more than enough information. We have too much information at some points, but then we also have hyper palatable foods. We also have bullshit in the water. We also have, whatever, just add on all these other things. So it creates this, I think it's going to take at least a generation or two if we corrected everything right now. Like it's going to take that long for I kind of think of it like this. You were asking like, are we fucked? Like, I think we are. I think our generation kind of is where it's like, we're going to have to do everything we can to offset the damage, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either, because we're going to learn a lot when we do it. We're going to learn a lot about, what the human body can go through and what it's, how to do certain things and what we can't do. And so
going to be uncomfortable.
It's going to be uncomfortable. And I really like how the way that you talk about this kind of stuff, because when I went through my whole thing, when I was 25, 26, I didn't have an erection for 2 years.
Wow.
And I was dating a girl at the time who I couldn't talk to her about it. Mm-hmm. She just thought I hated her. Mm-hmm. She just thought, oh, you don't find me attractive. All the things, right?
Of course.
And
that's how we
are. And it was, and then and then I'm trying to make excuses and then all this stuff. And it's just like, and me being a 25, 26-year-old going through that, I understand that now. And I love the way that your whole like mindset and the way that you approach it is like, hey, it's cool. We can get you out of that. Mm-hmm. And it's like, hey, it's cool. We know you're going through these things, because it's not always just you want to be ripped and jacked. No, sometimes I just want to feel good. I want to fucking have morning wood, and I want to be able to have sex when I want to. And, so it's like, it's those things too. And those things are equally as important for your mental health and stuff like that than everything 100%. Else.
A lot of the times guys will claim they want a 6-pack. That is the front-facing request. Underneath is all the other stuff.
So, hey, can we also work on this?
Yeah. Like, well, I'd like it, but this is really what's going on. And this is really how I feel. And it's like, okay, so we got to take a step back, because a 6-pack is great. Like, it can be a byproduct of you getting your shit together in other areas. But sometimes it is under-eating, overeating, under-training, overtraining that is affecting your erection. Sometimes it is testosterone. Sometimes it isn't. So
I like that you said you're optimistic about things, and I am as well. And not to get political about it, but I do think what RFK is potentially about to do, even if people don't like him for whatever their reason is, I think that's going to make enough people go like, but what's he really talking about? I don't like that guy, but what did he just say about this or that or whatever, And because I think that's really all a lot of people need. I have this theory, like, we're in Arizona. If you go to places like Arizona or California or Florida, where it's hotter and there's more beaches and there's more outdoor activity, people in general are in shape more. Mm-hmm. Like here, we kind of have to be in shape year round. We don't ever really, this is our winter.
Yeah.
Like, we're still golfing and hiking during our winter time. So like, we don't get the like excuse that we're bulking.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people do. Because when you go like to the Midwest or go east, of course, that's the thing. Oh, I'm bulking now. I can eat dirty. I'm just going to try to get big and all that. But then also the diet that is in those areas is, like you were saying earlier, tons of starches, tons of breads, lots of sauces, cheap cheeses, like all these kind of like, the classic comfort food type things. And I think that's the awareness that I'm hoping people get is like, oh, actually, I need to eat more protein. Mm-hmm. I need to eat less processed food that's very easy to get. Maybe bulking isn't cool every winter, because not everyone's a bodybuilder. Like, every guy thinks they are.
Yeah.
I'm going to bulk. It's like, no, you're just trying to be lazy. Let's just be real. You just want to eat more pizza, you're not bulking. You're not cutting after you bulk. You just want to bulk because it's fun.
You've been bulking for 20 years.
Yeah. You've been bulking your whole life, bro.
I'm not fat. I'm bulking.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really hope that is the awareness that people get, because I think just that little shift is going to have them asking more questions. Because then, like, we don't need people to dive right into like freaking seed oils and all these deep things, all that right away. But like, because a lot of the country, I think, just needs to eat more protein. Just needs to get their blood work done. Just needs to walk 10,000 steps or more a day. The basics. I like to harp on the basics all the time, because most people don't do them.
No, because they're boring. They're not sexy. I mean, I think I said this at Bedros' event where we didn't track steps 10 years ago. Like,
we didn't have to.
We didn't have to.
Yeah. Like, someone would be a complete dork to be like, oh, I didn't get my steps in. Like, and now it's like so common. Yep. And people think, well, I get 10,000 steps at work, so I get cardio, and that's not fucking cardio. Sorry. That's called like normal life. I mean,
unless you're getting, your heart rate above 120 just walking around, and we have bigger problems.
Oh my God.
Oh man, that better not be.
Some people do, like, walk into the mailbox. I mean, shit, at Disney, we did 32,000 steps.
Nice.
We were wrecked.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like, my husband and I were like very intense with the whole day. Like, we hit all 4 parks. He had the whole day planned out. So we were like speed walking.
Oh yeah.
And I told Luke and Dave, I'm like, be prepared. Like, we're not going to eat anything. We're literally just going to motor all day.
Yeah.
Friday, we were all hungover. We drank no alcohol. But I was like, man, how do people do Disney who are like 6 times our weight? Like, they must take massive rests and stuff like this. But to think that like 32,000 steps was probably like a typical day for our ancestors, you know, and now it's like something that completely like annihilates at least us.
I think in the 80s, or it was either the 70s or 80s, they were estimating it was like 20,000 was the average. It was like for somebody. So it's not that long ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, think about everyone just walked. Like a car was a major luxury for a long time, you know?
Yeah.
You just freaking walked.
Yep.
A lot of people didn't have a horse or a car.
Yeah.
You know, they just had a freaking
no
walk.
horse. Yeah.
No horse, no car. Yep.
Now they have, you know, motorbikes. Like bikes are like the kids in our neighborhood. I'm like, that's not a bike. That
right.
Like,
I see the kid. I was at the park one time.
I don't get how it's legal. They're just cruising through the streets on this little shitty mountain bike with a little motor. I'm like,
I was on this rant. I was like IG live on this rant, and I saw these kids, like teenagers, and they're all biking through the park. And my first initial thought was, fuck, finally, I see some kids out. Because I never see kids out anymore. I'll be at a park on a Saturday and it's beautiful outside. I'm like, the park is empty. I'm like, where the fuck are all the kids? And they're all inside playing fucking video games or whatever. And these kids, I was like, oh, cool, there's kids out there riding electric bikes.
Exactly.
Our community in Florida, like the complex has a Facebook group. And sometimes people complain that there's a group of kids riding bikes. And I'm like,
good.
The problem is like, you know, they're not mischievous. They're like just being kids.
Oh,
it's the weirdest thing. I was like, why is this a problem? Like, that's what they're supposed to do. Like,
weird culture thing.
So weird.
So weird. So speaking of weird, I have another question for you.
I like weird.
And I know I can ask you this because of, you know, the way I met you, being on stage with your props. But I'm looking at a graph here, or a photo here that you had at Bedros event.
Yeah.
And it talks about men from the 1940s, 80s, 2010s, and 2040s, penis length, flaccid 10 centimeters and erect 19 in the 40s. And then when you get to the 80s, it goes down to 8 and 15, significant drop. Then it goes down again, 6 and 11, and it keeps on going, especially as guys turn into women. Like, it's just not going to work. Mm-hmm. So a lot of guys hearing this, like that's terrifying.
Yeah.
For one, right? So what is the deal with that? And is there anything that guys can do? Because talk about freaking fake supplements and bullshit out there. Everything apparently will make your dick bigger, right? But is there anything that can kind of counteract this? Or is this going to be a multi-generational type thing where we have to try to get men to be men again?
That it's a fantastic question. And I agree. It's terrifying. It has to do with the exposure to phthalates and things like that are making the AG distance a lot smaller. So that, like, you know, that's why being intersex is more common now, like being born with both parts. So it's more the development and the development out of the womb and everything, but it will have to do with how the parents are able to raise the kid, I think, because you have to learn how to be a man if you're going to be a man.
Yeah.
Right. And if you have a smaller dick, then I don't know the way to counteract that, like via pharmaceuticals or chemicals or anything. But if you start acting as a man and you start participating in activities that require resilience and, you know, grit and all that stuff, I think that does help the process, because there are studies showing like aggression and stuff causes testosterone to rise.
Yeah.
Just like weightlifting does, but it doesn't mean it stays there. So I think that will give them a better chance of developing into more of a masculine man. I've never been asked that. So I think that's a great question.
Buy a bigger truck.
Yeah, buy a bigger truck.
Yes.
Because I think that's what a lot of guys,
100%.
that's what a lot of guys, like that's kind of where their mind goes. You know, it's like, well, shit, like if my testosterone's low, I already know I'm not performing the way I want to, either in the bedroom or just in general. You know, it's harder to keep on muscle mass. I'm fatter. Like all these things come from testosterone. And then when you see a chart like this, I'm really glad you put this up. I'm like, is that what that says?
Yeah.
I'm like, what is going on there? Like that's like, because if I know you guys can't see this right now unless I hold it up, I guess, but like you go from a guy who's, you know, hairy chest, he's got a lot of muscle on him, and we're just getting smaller and smaller. And then the last one is essentially a girl. You know, it's crazy. And that is not going to do society any justice if everyone turns into one just kind of melted together little, you know, thing.
Yeah.
That ain't going to work.
No, it's just, it's scary, honestly. And like you said, women are going through puberty earlier, and then guys are just, it's delayed.
Yeah.
I don't have an answer.
What do you think? What's like one or two things that some guys listening to this now are like, okay, I need to contact you, or I need to go to my doctor. I need to do something I need to go get tested, right? I need to figure my stuff out. What do you think is like a general thing that most guys do that they should stop right away? Like sugar, caffeine, booze, like what do you think a lot of guys could just right away start to like get on the right path with?
I would say booze is probably up there.
Yeah.
Cause you'll hear a lot, like, I don't drink during the week. Okay. How many drinks on the weekend?
Right.
You know, that
30 pack of
become a lot.
Yeah.
So the refusal to confront that social alcoholism is actually a form of alcoholism, and it does nothing positive for anything. Like when people are like, oh, you know, wine, it's good for you. It's not. Like the amount of wine you have to drink to get the benefit of the antioxidants and all that other stuff, it's like canceled out by all the negative effects of that.
Yeah,
like,
but I get my resveratrol through. Like, come on, no, you don't.
No, you
just
didn't.
do cocaine instead. No, I'm kidding. But like a lot of that really, like, they wonder why they feel like shit. Yeah. They wonder why they have no energy. They wonder why they can't put muscle mass on. They can't sleep. Like all those things. A lot of that can be attached to the drinking on the weekend or the binge eating on the weekend. It's confronting, like, literally, what are you doing in your life right now that you think is detracting from a positive experience in life? And audit that. Like, what are your habits? Like, how much time do you actually spend in front of a screen? How much time do you spend outside? All the basic stuff that's really boring to talk about, but there's a reason why it works.
Yeah. Most guys know that what they're doing that they should not be doing. Like, if you just ask them.
You can't cold plunge your way out of hangovers.
No. And yeah, especially when it comes to booze. No, you cannot. And this is my cup here. It says earn your booze. This is one of the things that we help guys with, is getting control of that. And it's actually kind of easy when you're intentional about it, because most guys do. They have a nightcap, or they drink on the weekends because there's always something to celebrate. There's always a fight, or there's always something, but if you're not intentional about it, and especially if you're not taking care of yourself the other days and all the other times, that's when it really compounds. And then you get the kind of like, I don't give a shit. Of course, I'm going to eat pizza and chips now because I'm already buzzed or drunk or whatever. Like, bad choices just lead to more bad choices. And so what I always say when it comes to earn your booze is, like, I'm not necessarily taking a guy and telling him to stop drinking right away. I'm starting to analyze his lifestyle and what habits can we change. Because once you get a little bit of win with your body and your mind and your confidence, you start to look at this a little bit differently. Because a lot of guys drink because they need to make fun and create excitement and enjoyment and fulfillment in their life. And that's where they get it from. It's that feeling, or it's the pour and then the buzz, and that's their fun. Like, no, how about we get the rest of your life kicking ass? Then if you do decide to have a drink, it's just adding to it, making it maybe a little bit better. But overall, like, that's when the drinking starts to go down. When they find more enjoyment in just whatever else they do, and then a lot of guys do go sober after that. Like, I rarely have a drink now. I just kind of like moved away from it, I don't like it. I'd rather just smoke some weed sometime at the end of the night and get the munchies, eat a bunch of fruit or whatever. And like, just, that's kind of my like dirty meal right there. And it's way better than drinking a bunch of beer and smoking down some pizza and chips and whatever else comes around. And, that's why we always say you got to earn whatever it is you put in your body. Because, you could earn calories. It's not about calories. Right. It's about, like, what are you doing to your organs? What is that doing to your lifestyle, your habits, and all the other things? But what I'm saying is, I agree with you. Yeah. A lot of guys probably underestimate how much they're drinking, and they don't realize how much it's affecting other things, especially sleep. Like, if I have a couple drinks now, it ruins my sleep.
Oh, like, it just completely wrecks it.
And then if you do that a couple times a week and you have bad sleep a couple times a week, that just snowballs. And now we're talking, who knows what, if you're already predisposed to having low test, or you're already having some issues with your dick not working that great, like, and you're not getting sun and all these other things, now they all start to add up. And it's like, well, now it's a no brainer. We know why you're falling apart.
No one wants to hear that in their 20s, though, because remember, we think we're invincible when we're in our early 20s.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You don't worry. When you're my age, you'll worry about this, and it's just like whatever. And I don't want people to think that we're coming from this holier than thou and like we're perfect, because fitness professionals are far from perfect. Like, when I got in the fitness industry, I didn't realize what addicts there were, how crazy They are, we are, like, because it's like, it's all or nothing so much. Like, I went to college and I was like, you guys go out at 11 p.m.? Like, I was that naive. Sure. And I played soccer, so we were only allowed to go out one night a week. And it was all out, like, where it affected practice the next week. But I was like, whatever, I'm going to write it off. In my 20s, working in a gym and going out with everybody and like, the amount of drinking, the amount of drugs, like all of that stuff. I had to have a come to Jesus moment. I think I was like 26 or 27, where I was like, I don't look like I lift, which bothered me. But also, where am I going to be in 10 years? Where do I want my career to go? How is this impacting? And I remember I was at an NSCA event, and the NSCA conferences were so much fun because the male to female ratio was like massive. So I was like, this is great. Like all these jack guys, there's like 5 chicks, like this is awesome. Everybody would go out. We would get hammered. And when I went to the expo the next morning and the hammer strength crew was like, oh, hey, it's the Jaeger bomb girl. And I was like, I don't want to be known as that for my career. And I was just like, all right, Allie, where are we going with this? Like, can you have a good time and not get freaking plastered every time, you know? And you don't have to do that, because people would use that as an excuse because it was the only time they got away from like whatever miserable stuff they're experiencing at home. Yeah. And so I went through that. So I'm not like, you know, now I'm fit year round because I cleaned all of that up and I have priorities and stuff. But I think if people knew like how the fitness industry is, and that's what I try to portray on social also, like we eat Sour Patch Kids, which I get like literally people lose their mind.
I imagine.
Deli turkey, like, we drink alcohol occasionally. And like, these are all the things that now people are afraid to admit because we don't want to be looked at as weak. It's not weakness. It's just showing I have the discipline to now not do that. But occasionally when you're fit and healthy, you can indulge in that and it doesn't have this like detriment to the rest of your life and your health. You know,
you're keeping it real.
I try to keep that real. And like Sour Patch Kids are delicious. And I will eat them and drink vodka for photo shoots. It's not like people literally lose their mind. And I'm like, it's like twice a year. Like, calm down.
Yeah, because if you drink vodka before the photo shoot, you're gonna be fucking ripped.
Yeah.
Well, because on the other
like
end of
the drying out.
Totally.
They don't understand that part. They're like, wait, how does vodka like make you look better?
Okay.
No, it's actually harder. And I've had this argument so many times. An 80-20 or 90-10 lifestyle is so much more difficult than 100% in or 100% out.
Yeah.
You know, because I know the guys that are 100%. And a lot of them are only 100% on social media. They're not really 100%.
No, none of them. No.
They're 100% for the camera, and then, their ex-girlfriend took a video of them at the strip club doing blow and like getting drunk when they're staunchly anti-alcoholic, and and it's like, come on, guys,
that
like,
deters people away from you.
Absolutely does. Yeah,
that's not authentic. Yep. Like, keeping it real, I think, is something we need more of in the fitness industry and really any industry, just on social in general, because then people don't feel so alone and they feel they can relate. There's plenty of fitness professionals out there who are purists, who everything they eat is like grass-fed, massaged, like went through red light therapy. Like, you do you. That's fine. That's not me. Like, I literally own the fact that, I like protein bars or protein cinnamon rolls. Like, you guys had Bruce on, like the legendary cinnamon rolls. He's sponsoring Silverback. I said, only bring the cinnamon rolls.
I have one in my bag.
They're the only things I like.
Yeah.
And my coach, Luke, who's been living with me, he's like, you live on fake food. Like, and I was like, yeah, and look at me. I was like, I can prove a point. And I'm like, sure, it's probably not the healthiest thing, but also it's very real, like, hey, you could actually have this, like, if you need to go to the gas station to get a protein shake, like, it's totally okay.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people are told by prep coaches or other coaches, like, no, you can't do that.
Yep. I would so much rather somebody get a 20 grams of protein from the legendary cinnamon roll than have to go through the bullshit of me lying to them, telling them, no, you got to take your Tupperware with shredded chicken and eat it cold. And it's like, no, just get the fucking cinnamon roll that's 20 grams of protein, eat that.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, get fucking beef jerky. And if you can't do that, get a string cheese. And if you can't do that, just don't eat.
Yeah. Well, yeah. A lot of people ask how I navigated Disney. I was like, I just don't eat.
Yeah.
Like I drink coffee all day, and then we have a nice dinner, and you save your calories for dinner. But
perfect.
You know, we had a guy come to us who was like, yeah, my last coach said I can't have Greek yogurt and I can't have protein shakes. And I was like, are you stepping on stage in a week? And he's like, I have no desire to step on stage like ever. And I was like, there's no reason for that. Like,
interesting.
And he's like, I have 4 kids. I go to lacrosse tournaments. I can't bring all my meals with me. And I was like,
dang,
please don't bring your meals with you.
I want to know why the Greek yogurt. That's interesting.
Who knows? Like this, but we were talking about earlier, like this is, you know, I think the mission should be to help raise the frequency and the health of the whole freaking country.
Yeah.
And by keeping it real is how we're going to do that. Because if the answer is chicken, broccoli, rice, no booze, no fun, no, what do you like to eat? The sour worms, like those
Sour Patch Kids,
Sour Patches. If that's the answer, no one's going to do it.
Yeah,
they're like, dude, what are you talking about? I live in Columbus, Ohio. It's not, you know what I mean? That ain't going to work. So I think we have to keep it real and just raise people's awareness and pull them down that path. A little bit of more protein, hydrate better, sleep better, drink less booze. Just do like these little like 1% changes. Like my coach, Sean Whalen, says this all the time. Like if you're flying an airplane going in one direction at 500 miles an hour, if you only make even a 1% change over 3 hours, you're in a completely different state. It might not look like much or feel like much, but over time, you didn't make it to Vegas. Now you're in Tijuana, you know, because you went far enough, or you went Hawaii or something, you know? So these little incremental changes, I think, is the way to go about it for most people, instead of trying to jump all in and throw the kitchen sink at them. But I want to ask you about this weekend, because we're going to be at the Silverback Summit Friday and Saturday. Yep, dancing, having a good time. So I want to know from your end, like, what is so different about Silverback Summit? Because it's my first time going, I'm pumped for it, than like anything else that's out there. Because I've been to a lot of events, a lot of personal development events, and a lot of people are talking fitness and, you know, but it's mostly motivation.
Yeah.
So like, what should someone expect coming to Silverback Summit?
So I like to talk about what the feedback has been the past few years, because a lot of people say like, the group of people that you attracted to this are just really cool. And I was like, all right, good.
Compliment.
That's really
good feedback. That means a lot, because that means that, you know, we surround ourselves with just good people. And now it's at the point where there's people I don't even know who they are. I've never met them who come, but they're the same type of person. And so people's openness, willingness to help, like, you know, nobody big times anybody. And like all my speakers, they immerse in the event, like they hang out, like they like being a part of it.
That's cool.
And I think that a lot of guys there, like a lot of them are on TRT. A lot of them are thinking about TRT. It's a lot of medical and fitness professionals, but we do attract guys from outside both industries who just want to learn more about men's health. So a lot of them have gone through something in their life. They'll meet somebody who's also going through the same thing, or maybe has marriage issues or relationship problems, or like, how the fuck do I parent 6 kids or something like that, where that conversation happens very organically and very open, and it's fun. And that's the feedback I've gotten, because I try very hard, because I hand select all the speakers, and I get asked now all the time, you know, can I speak? Can I speak? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. I'm not going to put someone on stage. I don't know them. And then something comes out of their mouth and I'm like, oh my God. Like, and people are just like, what the fuck was that? We have a lot of repeat speakers, because there's a lot of the physicians and people that I trust in my network that it's their first time being exposed to some of these people that come, and some people they've never seen them. And they're kind of like the OGs, like Dave Lee, he's only 30. But his wisdom, you think he's like my age. Yeah. And I've seen his growth over the past, you know, few years. We've been friends, maybe 5 years, where I'm like, the world needs to know you. You have to come to do this event. And the first year was in 2022, and he still couldn't travel from Australia to here. So we had him on Zoom. And even on Zoom, he had like this, you know, wizardly, like godlike appearance, because the beard and like, you know, his voice is so commanding and everything. And
the inflection of his accent too is perfect for what he talks about.
Totally. Like people are just like, they just want to listen all day. And that's why I have him keynoting, because he's been with me the past few years. Since the beginning, he believed in the mission. So there's a lot of people who believe in what I'm trying to do. Like they realize, okay, Allie makes no money on this event. It costs a lot of money. It's literally to move men's health forward, but also to bring in guys who maybe have no one else to talk to about this. And here you're going to meet not only physicians, fitness people, but like you might have a best friend. And there's guys who became friends. And the collaborations that I've seen, not only podcasts and professional, but like friendships that have grown. I'm like, that's cool. Like people
super cool.
Just like they talk about how they've met some of their best friends there. And I'm like, that's exactly what I want. Because I know growing up, you know, I'm 43 now, but when I started going to conferences, that's the only place that I felt people understood me. Like growing up in Greenwich, I did not fit in. Like I just was not one of those people who are about like Birkin bags and Louis Vuitton. And like, I could care less. I wear Amazon clothing. And going to conferences is like, oh, people who like live like I do and they're ambitious and, you know, they get it. And like, you know, we all look for energy drinks and we're all like addicts for candy and stuff like that. Like this is where people feel they get me. And that's the environment that I wanted to create. And that's what I feel you guys will experience.
I love it. Awesome. It's your personal touch all throughout it. And one thing you touched on is the speakers are not just speakers. They're there. And this is one thing I really appreciated about Bedros at his event. He was just hanging out all the time.
Yeah.
Like I saw him like 3 or 4 times, you know, in the hallway or in the back or on the side or wherever, you know, because a lot of these events, like they're very guarded. Oh, I'm a speaker, so I'm going to speak. And then I get on my plane and I leave. And it's like, okay, well, like I'm sure, you know, you provide a lot of good value, but like when you're there and you get to actually shake someone's hand, and that means a lot to a lot of people to be like, to like touch this person and like, or just be next to them for a minute, you know, like I actually saw, this is my last point here. I actually saw, we both did Michael Jordan the other day for the first time.
Oh, wow.
He was like
I met him
myth.
in the bathroom.
He was like a myth to me.
It was insane.
Yeah,
in the bathroom?
Yeah,
how awkward though.
Insane.
Like, hey, what's up?
Yeah, I knew it was going to happen.
Yeah, we went to brunch.
Told him he had a nice watch.
Oh yeah.
While you're like at the urinal. Yeah, why are you looking at my wrist? Right. That's on my dick.
Yeah, but we went to brunch and I was like, you know, I'm just gonna look around, new place, haven't been there before, global ambassador, some French restaurant. I'm just kind of looking and I'm like, I was like, hey, that kind of looks like Michael Jordan.
It's 100%.
And he's just like,
Jordan.
that's what he said. That's 100% Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Just seeing him and being like 10 feet from him, I was like, oh, damn, that's crazy. So I just mentioned that because when people come to your event and they get all this value from Dave Lee and the other speakers and everyone that's there, and then they actually get to shake their hand, tell them their name, get a picture with them. I like that kind of personal touch when it comes to an event.
Yeah.
It's not just speak at you. It's like, no, I'm here with you. Like, so
yes.
I'm super pumped for it, and we'll be there all weekend. It'll be great.
Yeah. Mike Dolce, one of our speakers, he came last year as an attendee. He was at every single talk. He hung out after the social. We were playing stupid improv games that Jay Ferrugia had us doing like until like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And he was just hanging out. And I was like, this is impressive.
I have a feeling
I tell people
he's the kind of guy that would just expect nobody to know who he is. Just because he
so
seems very humble. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's just like, wait, you guys know who I am? Like, no shit.
And then you see like the New Jersey and him unleash on the internet. And I always tell people, like, if you want to speak at somebody's event, you got to do what Mike did. You don't ask, you just show up.
Yeah.
You get to know the culture. You get to know what happens. He still didn't ask. Literally the day after Silverback, I texted him and I was like, will you speak next year? You impressed the fuck out of me with how you like were just hanging out with everybody. And like everyone was so psyched to see you and meet you and everything. Like that is cool.
That's super cool.
You know,
awesome.
and those are the types of people that I want to surround with. And that's why our format this year, it's not like death by PowerPoint all day long. So it's going to be like 20-minute TED style talks.
Oh, cool.
So you kind of get to know like, okay, this is their jam. This is what they're about. And then we break out into roundtables where if you could care less about medical stuff, but you want to talk to Mike Dolce, you can go talk to Mike Dolce.
Cool.
And then he can answer questions and stuff. And then we have the socials where everyone can hang out and then answer more questions or just like, you know, chill.
Very cool.
And then we have the panels, which they get really heated in a good way because they're fun. Because there's a lot of hot topics in the TRT space. So I know what pushes my guys' buttons. So I ask those questions because they always come up. Yeah. And those panel discussions are very eye-opening because you see not different perspectives, but like different takes on certain topics and stuff. And then people realize like, oh shit, I've always wondered this. and they're speaking to me like, you know, you hear that a lot. Like, I feel like you're talking to me. So
yeah.
I'm really excited. Pumped. Yeah, I'm really excited to ask Dave. I'm going to ask him tomorrow, actually, when he's on the podcast about the people that are blasting 1,000 milligrams of melatonin.
That's going to be very interesting.
We were all talking about that because he got himself up to 300.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like anti-carcinogenic properties, and it can definitely heal certain issues and neurological stuff.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you look at it mechanistically, but that thought process of like, if you're doing it, it's going to, you know, basically fuck up everything else on the back end has been, you know, so prevalent. And if that's not the case, that's really good news. Yeah. Yeah. And if you can get over the, you know, the 2 to 5 milligram hump and, you know, having shitty morning a couple times, like that's awesome.
Well, I asked him about that because I was like, so what if guys get really groggy? And he said, just take it earlier. So now take it when the sun comes down.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting till right before bed.
Yeah.
And then you just slowly build that up, because he said a lot of guys, they get groggy and they stop. And he said that will eventually go away. You just have to push through it. Dang. But nobody pushes through it, myself included.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm like, oh, okay. So now I've been taking it actually at like, you know, in Florida, the sun goes down like 5:30 now. So I've been taking it then, and I've actually felt I can sleep a lot better and wake up a little bit more clear-headed. Slowly titrating the dose. I'm at like 7 milligrams now. Yeah. So slowly, but I remember the medical conference I spoke at in 2018, they had the leading researcher of melatonin. He's like 100 years old, so I'm not sure if he's still alive, but he was talking on stage on how he would get people to like 100 milligrams. And I remember tweeting about it because I don't use Twitter anymore, but back then Twitter was like super hot. And people are like, oh, you have to mean micrograms. I'm like, no, milligrams. Like, and I took a picture of the slide, and people were losing their shit because they think that it works the same as like testosterone, where it suppresses your natural ability.
Sure.
And just the stuff that he was talking about, and like how people were like healing from all these things. I was like, this is fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, it is a hormone.
Like crazy.
It's like, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I would have been one of those people going, there's no fucking way. Like, there's no way. Like, I take 2.5 milligrams and I dream about demons and I get fucking sleep paralysis. And I'm like, all right, let me relook at this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
Oh, yeah. Allie, you're awesome. Thank you for being here. We will see you Friday and Saturday.
Yes.
All the links to contact you for your coaching and your event, everything is down below. So we don't even have to worry about spitting it out. It'll be there. And if you guys like what we said about Earn Your Booze, go get a t-shirt at earnitall.com.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
thank you. Thanks a lot. Cheers.